Chapter 11. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Can you lend me your red gourd? Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. Mo Jingdong shook his head at Jiang Lan's words. Once your cultivation has reached a certain level, you will be able to understand this better. Jiang Lan nodded slightly. This was very normal. He looked like he was only at the qi refinement stage right now. Even a true genius at his supposed stage wouldn't know the secrets of Kunlun Mountain so easily, let alone someone like him who didn't look like a genius. Get ready, then you can head to the third summit. This time, your cultivation level might be the weakest. After entering, it will be a test of your cultivation. So don't show off your abilities, Mo Jingdong said seriously. Although the mystic realms had many benefits, opportunities also meant danger. The slightest carelessness could lead to an eternal damnation. I will follow Master's instructions. Jiang Lan naturally wouldn't lower his guard. He could relax by himself, but once there were more people, he couldn't do so. He had too many secrets. Being exposed would be a crisis for him. Therefore, he will keep a low profile. After leaving the mountain peak, Jiang Lan returned to his residence. He made some simple preparations. He wore his red gourd and left the 9th summit. The little gourd was his storage treasure, so he just had to bring this with him. This way, even if he took out a treasure from the system, no one would say anything. The 3rd summit was not close to the 9th summit. However, as Jiang Lan appeared to be at the 9th stage of the qi refinement realm, it would not take too much time for him to get there. When he arrived at the 3rd summit, Jiang Lan discovered that there were actually many female disciples here. Speaking of which, he didn't know much about the other peaks in Kunlun. He only knew that the 1st summit was the strongest peak. Every summit master had their own responsibilities. His master's duty was to guard the entrance to the netherworld. This could be his responsibility in the future. Ordinary disciples are not allowed into the 3rd summit. When Jiang Lan reached the entrance, he was suddenly stopped by 2 beautiful women. I am Jiang Lan of the 9th summit. I am under the orders of my master to enter the mystic realm of the 3rd summit. As he spoke, Jiang Lan took out a jade tablet. This is my identity jade tablet. He's really from the 9th summit. The 2 of them were slightly surprised. Thereafter, they could only make way for him. When Jiang Lan had walked up, the 2 women started chatting curiously. Didn't they say that there's no one from the 9th summit? That's right. I also heard that the disciples of the 9th summit never stay for long. I remember that the 9th summit hasn't taken in any disciples in the past few years. I have no clue, but that's what all those senior brothers and sisters say. Jiang Lan continued upwards. Indeed, the 9th summit had not accepted any disciples in the past few years. This was good too. He felt at ease when he's alone. If there were more disciples, his master might have asked him to help teach them. However, it would be very difficult for anyone to remain on the 9th summit. He had always been facing the netherworld aura. Sometimes, he would be able to sense the strangeness in the aura. If his temperament was lacking, he would have fallen into a bottomless abyss. Soon, Jiang Lan arrived at the place as per his master's instructions. It was halfway up the 3rd summit. There was a small plaza with 7 or 8 people. There were both men and women. All of them had very high cultivation levels. The weakest has already perfected the foundation establishment realm, while the strongest was at the golden core realm. And there were more than one of them. There's another one. Looks like there are 7 of us. But, a white-clothed youth looked at Jiang Lan, somewhat surprised. Which summit are you from, junior brother? Yan Jin looked at Jiang Lan curiously. To be able to come here, they must have been ordered by their masters. But this person's cultivation level was too low. He had only perfected the qi refinement stage. I'm Jiang Lan, a disciple of the 9th summit. Greetings, senior brother. Jiang spoke in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. Yen Li was surprised. So he's the junior brother of the ninth summit. No wonder. Yen Li then looked at another golden core cultivator. Junior sister Ao. With the disciple of the ninth summit, the number of people is just right. I'll leave this team to you. Standing by the side, Ao Longyu nodded slightly. Okay. Under Yen Li's guidance, Jiang Lan walked to Ao Longyu's team. Every team has a leader. They are all golden core disciples of the various summits. They won't interfere too much, but it's best if you don't go too far away. It's easy to fall into danger, Yen Li told Jiang Lan. Jiang Lan naturally expressed his gratitude towards this. However, if a golden core cultivator could lead a team, then there shouldn't be much of a danger inside. Jiang Lan dispelled this thought as soon as it appeared. No one said that golden core cultivators could roam freely inside. One needed to be vigilant when facing the unknown. After entering, you have a week to a month's time. Please be sufficiently prepared. When Jiang Lan joined the group, Ao Longyu reminded everyone. Jiang Lan glanced at the other party. Her features were exquisite, and she had the appearance of a female beauty that could captivate even the birds and beasts. However, there wasn't much emotion in her eyes. She was proud and cold. Her surname is Ao. Is she related to the dragon race? This question flashed through Jiang Lan's mind. Of course, it was just pure speculation. There was no evidence, and he had no intention of asking. Junior brother, I heard that you obtained 5 Dharma treasures 3 years ago. I remember that there's a red gourd out of the 5. That's a pretty good storage Dharma treasure, right? At this moment, a young man nudged Jiang Lan and said with a smile, your cultivation level is weak. It's dangerous for you to enter. You might lose your treasure, why don't you lend it to us first? We can keep it safe for you. Jiang Lan turned to look at the young man beside him. He was a short haired man with rough facial features and a hint of wildness in his eyes. A cultivator who has perfected the foundation establishment, and has the strength of one bull. This thought flashed across Jiang Lan's mind. Jiang Lan remained silent. But at this moment, he felt a cold glint. Clang! A long sword shone not far in front of Jiang Lan, or rather, it was aimed directly at the short-haired man. At this moment, Jiang Lan could feel the power within the sword. It was a flash of blue light, and it was extremely powerful. Junior brother Xian Jiao, if this junior brother's red gourd is lost in the mystic realm, I'll take it as you're the one who took it. Do you understand? A crisp and pleasant voice was heard. It was Ao Longyu. This sword intimidated Xian Jiao. He snorted coldly and did not say anything else. Jiang Lan looked at the senior sister in surprise. But when he looked over, that senior sister had already sheathed her sword and walked forward. The others aren't surprised. From the looks of it, it wasn't a sudden action for her. Does this senior sister love to be nosy? Then, Jiang Lan and the others followed along, ready to enter the mystic realm. Jiang Lan didn't relax. Ever since those 2 people who appeared 3 years ago, he realized that not all of his fellow disciples were on the same side. Chapter 12 You are listening at novelfull.audio. Being treated as a prey translator. Atlas Studios editor. Atlas Studios Jiang Lan silently walked at the back. According to what they said, there were 7 people in each team. In other words, a lot of people might have entered. Come to think of it, that should be the case. If not, how could someone from the 9th summit attain a spot to advance when there were so few people from the summit? However, the quota should be limited. After all, there was no one who had just perfected chi refinement here. Only someone like him, who was the only person in the entire 9th summit, would receive such treatment. However, to perfect the chi refinement stage in 3.5 years, it was considered the speed of a genius. But everyone understood that the entire peak's resources were concentrated on him. His master even spared no effort to help him. Anyone else would have reached his level as well. This kind of advancement method was indeed not slow in the early stages, but the later stages would be more difficult. The gap between him and a genius would only widen. Innate talent determined the upper limit. Without sufficient opportunities, it was difficult to cross that threshold. Follow behind me. When we enter the mystic realm, it's easy to be sucked into the tunnel storm. Don't fiddle around. If you're afraid, you can close your eyes. Ao Longyu's voice came from the entrance of the mystic realm. The entrance to the mystic realm was on an altar. At this moment, they were already on the altar. The others remained silent at Ao Longyu's words. Jian Lan followed suit. He was just going to sign in here and take a look at the mystic realm. The breakthrough would depend on the situation. If it was suitable for him to have a breakthrough, then so be it. If not, then he would continue his chi refinement. If he were to reach the foundation establishment realm now, it would mean that he did not need to check his mental state, which was a good thing. However, he had to have a breakthrough naturally. Being careful was his topmost priority. He did not want to attract any attention. At this moment, a faint light enveloped them. It was Ao Longyu's power. Then, Jian Lan felt a force pulling him. In the next second, he appeared in a storm. There seemed to be a dragon's shadow surrounding them. She's really from the dragon race. Jian Lan was surprised. It should be normal for there to be dragons on Kunlun Mountain. However, 3 years ago, he seemed to have heard someone mention the dragon race. He didn't really listen, so he wasn't sure what was said exactly. Of course, Jian Lan didn't care about such things. Not long later, they landed safely on the ground. It was a mountain. They were now at the foot of the mountain. Jian Lan looked at the mountain and felt a magical cloud illuminating it. If he signed in at the peak, he should be able to get something good. It would be even better if there were great Tao paths above. The mystic realm would be open for many days for them to have a breakthrough. Therefore, Jian Lan had to stay here until the end. We've arrived. I'll always be here. You all can move freely. If you encounter any danger within my perception range, I will make a move. Otherwise, you need to run into my perception range. Ao Longyu's voice was heard. She sat cross-legged on the grass and said no more. She even closed her eyes. Within the range of her perception. How wide is her perception range? Jian Lan had some questions in his heart. If it was him, his perception would not be able to reach half the mountain. This mountain was ridiculously large. However, he still had to go to the mountain peak. With his mystical powers, the one-leaf vision and 9 steps of heavenly travels, he could return very quickly. It wouldn't affect anything. The others didn't ask any more questions. It seemed like they all knew what was going on as they all left in different directions. Everyone had come for a breakthrough. Junior brother, the third summit's mystic realm is not that safe. I advise you not to leave senior sister Ao's protective zone. Senior sister Ao's perception is extremely broad. It is enough for you to search for opportunities for a breakthrough. Xian Jiao said to Jian Lan with a disdainful smile. Jian Lan glanced at him and lowered her head to express his gratitude. Then, he turned around and left. Humph, what kind of good temperament is that? He only dares to be angry but doesn't dare speak out, that's all. Xian Jiao gave Jian Lan another look before turning to leave. After everyone had left, Ao Longyu looked in the direction that Jian Lan had walked in before looking in the direction that Xian Jiao had left in. It was a completely different direction. Therefore, she did not care further about this. A long while later, Ao Longyu opened her eyes again. Everyone has left my range of perception. Earlier, the last person had also left her perception range. After that, she didn't pay attention anymore. Everyone had a choice. She couldn't control them. She shouldn't be able to sense me here any longer. Halfway up the mountain, Jiang Lan looked behind him and silently muttered to himself. His target was the mountain peak. It was impossible for him to stay in her perception and receive protection. Even if he had genuinely only perfected the chi refinement realm, he would have to leave her perception range if he wanted a breakthrough. Although breaking through from chi refinement to foundation establishment was not as difficult as condensing a golden core, it did not mean that it was easy. Jiang Lan then continued upwards. There were indeed some dangerous things around him. However, he more or less had some understanding, and was able to avoid them. He didn't want to make a move here if he could. He wanted to walk up to the mountain peak with all the knowledge he currently possessed. It was a good time for him to verify what he had learned over the past few years as well. As for his capability, there was no need to display it here. He had already signed in today, so it would be just right for him when he reached the mountain peak the next morning. At night, Jiang Lan walked on the mountain road. He had used everything he knew to avoid danger. Fortunately, there were no mishaps along the way. However, when he had just avoided a tiger-like demonic beast, he suddenly felt like he was being watched. Staring at a prey. The moment he felt the gaze, Jiang Lan knew that the other party was eyeing him like prey. But this gaze felt distant. They must have been seeing him through some medium. "I'll wait for you." Jiang Lan didn't bother about it and continued walking forward. Hopefully, the other party would arrive soon. However, since someone was attacking him, he would prepare everything that needed to be prepared. He would never underestimate his enemies. Although he had formed a golden core was nothing in the grand desolate world. He could not let his guard down even the slightest bit. However, he did not know who was targeting him. And for what. Chapter 13. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Thunderous Tactics Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios, he actually dared to leave Ao Longyu's range of perception. He's truly courageous. Xian Jiao sat on a tree with a snake coiled around it. It was through this snake that he saw Jiang Lan's figure. A snake with two pupils. It was a natural magical power, the clairvoyance. This was his spirit beast. Very few people knew of its existence. According to the plan, we have to find a way to lure Ao Longyu into a trap and hunt her down. She escaped 3 years ago. Today, I want to see how she will escape this killing. Xian Jiao touched the snake with two pupils. At this moment, a lightning mark appeared on his face. However, this mark flashed past before disappearing. Let's use this disciple from the 9th summit by taking him down, then lure Ao Longyu over. If someone reported it, she would definitely make a move. Haha. Let's have some fun with this little fellow. Xian Jiao smiled and headed towards Jiang Lan. His speed was extremely fast. It was not the speed of an ordinary cultivator who had just perfected the foundation establishment. Jiang Lan walked along the mountain path. He could feel that someone was approaching him very quickly. It feels like someone who has perfected the foundation establishment realm, but its speed has surpassed that realm. There is a possibility that he has learned a cultivation technique similar to the 9 steps of heavenly travel like me. Or he has concealed his cultivation. Jiang Lan thought for a moment before realizing that hiding their cultivation level would meant that they're doing the same as him. Roar. All of a sudden, the low growls of demonic beasts sounded from the forest. It was a herd of beasts. Jiang Lan turned to look in the direction of the growls, while they were also staring at him. Since the other party was here, there was no need for Jiang Lan to move. He stood where he was, waiting for them to appear. Not long after, a few sparse voices could be heard as some demonic beasts began to appear in front of Jiang Lan. There were demonic beasts similar to tigers and wild boars. They were all above the foundation establishment stage. Roar. Suddenly, the tiger-like demonic beast charged towards Jianglan. Crack! At this critical moment, Jianglan went in the opposite direction of its attack. The tiger-like demon bit down on a huge tree. Boom! The tree collapsed. Roar! The tiger-like demonic beast stared at Jianglan, not attacking again. TSK, the junior brother of the ninth summit is indeed extraordinary. He actually managed to maintain his cool. A voice came from behind the herd. Jianglan remembered that the voice belonged to Xian Jiao. Senior brother, are you here to borrow my red gourd? Jianglan asked. He needed to figure out the other party's motive. If he made his move, he wouldn't be able to find out even if he wanted to. The power of 9 bulls was a bit hard to restrain. You're willing to lend it to me. It's the kind of borrow that won't be returned. Xian Jiao stood in the middle of the herd, smiling at Jianglan. However, there was disdain and contempt in his smile. I remember senior sister Ao saying that as long as my red gourd is gone, it'll be taken as being picked up by senior brother, wouldn't you return it then? Jianglan didn't care about Xian Jiao's gaze. Oh, right. Xian Jiao seemed to have just remembered this matter and smiled. So if junior brother dies here and the red gourd is with him, then I'll definitely be a suspect. Senior brother, you want to kill me just for a red gourd? Jianglan remained calm throughout. It's about time. After all, I don't really like you. Xian Jiao didn't say anything else and directly asked the demonic beasts to attack. He wanted to see the terrified expression on his face, but he still remained calm. This made him an eyesore. He planned to disassemble his limbs first. Wasn't it normal for one to lose their breath after having their limbs bitten off by a demonic beast? They were not here to have fun in the mystic realm. As for his true purpose, why would he tell a dead person? Moo. Just as Xian Jiao finished his words, a bull with long horns started to run wildly. It charged straight at Jianglan. At this moment, Jianglan could feel the pressure of the air wave. It was the bull's ability. Xian Jiao looked at Jianglan. He would let the bull crash into him first before letting the other demonic beasts gnaw off his limbs. Soon, the raging bull was about to hit Jianglan. Xian Jiao felt as if he could already see Jianglan being sent flying. But right at this moment, Jianglan moved. He waved the back of his clenched fist. Boom! A tremendous loud sound was heard. What followed was the sound of explosions. Bang! The bull's upper body was punched into a bloody mist. The remaining portions of its body were also sent flying by the powerful blast. Everything happened so fast that Xian Jiao could not react in time. He was stunned. What? What happened? A raging bull at the foundation establishment stage was defeated by a cultivator who has just perfected the qi refinement stage. You concealed your cultivation level. At this moment, Xian Jiao finally saw the root of the problem. His opponent was definitely not at the perfected stage of qi refinement. It's just a bull. With that, he ordered all the demonic beasts to attack Jianglan at the same time. The tiger-like demonic beasts rushed towards Jianglan. In the face of these demonic beasts' attacks, Jianglan only had to use the strength of one bull. Bang! 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 In no time at all the beasts that had attacked him were turned into blood mists. Not a single demonic beast was worth Jianglan's second punch. However, even though these demonic beasts were weak, he did not lower his guard. He took all of them seriously. Finally, Jianglan watched as Xian Jiao approached him. You. What is your cultivation level? Xian Jiao was a little taken aback. This did not match his understanding at all. How could someone deal with these demonic beasts so easily? He never needed to use a second punch. It was as if a giant was squashing ants. This was unlike the Foundation establishment stage. Jiang Lan opened his mouth as he wanted to ask something. But just as he did, Xian Jiao made his move. There was a snake coiled in his hand. At this moment, both his hand and the snake attacked him. Jiang Lan didn't panic. He only reached out his hand at a speed that the other party couldn't see clearly, grabbing that snake and that hand. Then, he twisted it gently. Crack. A crisp sound rang out. Then, an arm fell to the ground, with a dead snake still wrapped around it. Ah! Xian Jiao held his broken arm and screamed. It was too fast. It was really too fast. He had no idea what had just happened. He had only gone over to attack his opponent, but in an instant, his arm was gone. His snake with 2 pupils was also killed. They were not on the same level. The other party not in the Foundation establishment stage. He was definitely at the Golden Core stage, or even higher. Senior, please spare my life. I was the one who failed to recognize someone formidable like you. Xian Jiao looked at Jiang Lan in horror. He realized that the man was definitely not some disciple. It was too terrifying. At this moment, he suddenly recalled the 2 people who had been killed earlier. 1 punch to the body. This was exactly the same. Chapter 14. You are listening at novelfull.audio. You find me an eyesore translator. Atlas Studios editor. Atlas Studios. Jiang Lan looked at Xian Jiao, who was not far away, his face expressionless. The other party was not strong. Hence, he did not have much emotional fluctuations. However, he did not dare to relax. He walked towards Xian Jiao step by step as his calm voice followed. You don't like me. It's me who is blind. Xian Jiao looked at Jiang Lan with fear and unease. Jiang Lan didn't say much about this. He walked towards Xian Jiao a step at a time. Xian Jiao continuously backed up. He wanted to run, but he knew that it was difficult to escape. His opponent was too strong. Why are you messing with me? Jiang Lan asked. He wanted to figure out what his motive was. As long as he wasn't targeting him because he knew his secret, then it was nothing. For a big plan. Xian Jiao looked at Jiang Lan and said. A big plan. Jiang Lan thought about it and felt that it probably would not affect the 9th summit. After all, he was the only one who came from there. There was nothing to target. Xian Jiao quietly placed his remaining hand behind him. No matter what the big plan was, the other party was definitely interested. As long as he was interested, he would have a chance. The other party would not let him off, but he could make use of this perilous situation and attack him back. Poison. He had a poison strong enough to kill a golden core. As long as the other party was distracted for a moment. He wanted to use the information that he had to surprise the other party. Yes, a big plan. A big plan regarding the entire Kunlun. It concerns the next few hundred years, Xian Jiao said fearfully. He seemed very afraid. I see, Jiang Lan said in a low voice. That's right. You're interested, aren't you? Ask me. Ask me. Jiang Lan looked at Xian Jiao and waved his fist. Boom. Under Xian Jiao's horrified gaze, the terrifying fist landed on his body. With a bang, Xian Jiao turned into a blood mist. He didn't understand till his death, why this person didn't ask. Why wasn't he interested in such a big matter? Jiang Lan retracted his fist and said calmly, since it concerns the entire Kunlun, it doesn't have much to do with me. After all, with his current capability, there was nothing he could do. Besides, what was so nice about listening to a plan that would last for hundreds of years? Jiang Lan then left. It was already early in the morning. He had to go to the peak of the mountain to sign in. He was sure that no one was watching him. Now that the problem was solved, it made him feel much more relaxed. As for Xian Jiao's death, Jiang Lan didn't plan to tell anyone. He would wait until someone discovered him. Of course, no one would suspect him. How could a disciple who has just perfected qi refinement cause harm to a cultivator who has perfected the foundation establishment? It was impossible. Not long later, Jiang Lan arrived at the peak of the mountain. When he came up, there was no one there. There was no reminder from the system about the Great Tao either. It seemed like there was no Great Tao paths here. It wasn't really a disappointment. System, sign in at Third Summit's Mystic Realm. He thought to himself. Soon, the system's voice sounded. Ding! Signed in successfully. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the gift of the Great Tao. You have obtained the creation of heaven and earth. The creation pill. Creation pill. The creation of heaven and earth. The gathering of the changes of heaven and earth and the deduction of all living things allows you to break through all bottlenecks. As the system's voice ended, Jiang Lan could see a pill surrounded by black and white light in his mind. It contained the mysteries of all things. Jiang Lan was a little surprised to see the pill and to hear the introduction. It was actually also a creation of heaven and earth. The last time the creation of heaven and earth appeared was the Taoist scripture. Now, it was the creation pill. No matter what, as long as it was a creation of heaven and earth, it was definitely something unfathomable. However, from the introduction, it seemed that the creation pill was inferior to the Taoist scripture. But its effects were hard to say. The Taoist scripture could allow one to quickly advance, and one would also have a deep understanding of many things. Cultivation techniques and array formations would improve by leaps and bounds. However, the effect of the creation pill was very simple. It could break through all bottlenecks. It didn't mention the restrictions. If he ate it when he was about to become an immortal, then, wouldn't he become an immortal in an instant? There was no need to make too many preparations. Jiang Lan looked at the creation pill and hesitated. Should he wait until he became an immortal before using it? Or should he use it to break through to the essence soul realm? Forget it, let's see how it goes. He was not a pedantic person. It was best to use it when it was most suitable. If he kept it until the end, he might not be able to walk safely ahead. Without the present, there would be no future. After that, Jiang Lan planned to head down the mountain and search for an opportunity to have a breakthrough within Senior Sister Ao's perception range. Breaking through would depend on the situation. At the foot of the mountain, Ao Longyu suddenly opened her eyes. She looked ahead in surprise. It was because the mystic realm had begun to produce mist. Strange, there shouldn't be any fog at this time. Ao Longyu was curious and a little bothered. The fog meant that the beast hordes in the mountains would gather together, which could easily cause a beast tide. She could suppress a simple beast horde, but once a beast tide appeared, it would be very difficult for her to suppress it. Moreover, it could be fatal to her. As a member from the dragon race, she was incomparably dazzling in front of the beast tide. She would definitely be attacked directly. Is this really just a coincidence? Ao Longyu muttered to herself. What happened 3 years ago had made her much more cautious. Let's find the junior brothers and sisters of the other peaks first, then contact the other teams. With this decision in mind, Ao Longyu took action. However, as soon as she moved, she discovered that the mist could easily affect her perception. This made her feel even more sure that something was off. She started toward the mountains. However, the deeper she went, the more unstable her senses became. Even I find it difficult to move. The others should be having a harder time. I have to find the rest, quickly. Ao Longyu did not slow down. Before long, someone entered her senses. His speed was not slow either. Chapter 15. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Exchange with Ao Longyu translator. Atlas Studios editor. Atlas Studios, he's the junior brother of the ninth summit. He knows when to retreat. Looks like he knows his place. Ao Longyu immediately knew who this person was after sensing his cultivation level. However, she soon frowned. With his cultivation level, his speed is a bit too fast. Is he not affected by the mist? Ao Longyu was confused. However, she still planned to go over and take a look at the situation, before bringing him to a safe place. She will then find the others. It was impossible for her to bring him along. The others could do it, but the disciple of the ninth summit was too weak. He would not be able to keep up with her. As Jiang Lan walked along the mountain road, the fog around him kept retreating. Therefore, even though he had only perfected the Qi refinement realm, he could still travel quickly. This was not brought about by his strength, but by his knowledge. Hence, he did not mind being seen. Of course, he was already aware of Ao Longyu's approach. Before the other party could sense him, he had already sensed her. Besides senior apprentice sister Ao, there was no other golden core cultivator. At the very least, there was none around here, unless someone came along to cause trouble for him again. She's coming over. I wonder what she's up to. Of course, Jiang Lan was also on guard. If it was someone trying to make things difficult for him again, it would be hard for him. He had never fought a golden core cultivator before. Having just advanced to the golden core stage, he did not have the experience of competing with someone of the same cultivation level, so he was not sure what the battle prowess of other golden core cultivators was like. To be able to easily kill Xian Jiao was completely due to the suppression of his level. Whoosh! A cool breeze blew past, and a woman dressed in blue and white descended from the sky. She was slender and beautiful. However, there was no emotion in her eyes. She looked like an emotionless porcelain doll. Senior Sister Ao. Jiang Lan lowered his head and greeted her. Her beauty really caused him to be a little distracted. After all, he was still young, and even though he cultivated the immovable Wisdom King incantation, but he was not a machine after all. Of course, it was just a moment of awe. It wasn't enough to make one lose their composure. If the other party's goal was the same as Xian Jiao, Jiang Lan would treat the senior sister in front of him the same way he did to the other. Junior brother, have you seen anyone else? Ao Longyu asked Jiang Lan. No, Jiang Lan replied immediately. This question bothered him. After all, he had just killed Xian Jiao not long ago. I'll bring you to a safe place first. A mist has appeared in the mystic realm. It means there's danger. As she spoke, Ao Longyu's power swept up Jiang Lan. Then, she began to bring Jiang Lan out of the mountains. However, Ao Longyu frowned not long after they had left. The surrounding fog was retreating. This was different from what she had encountered before. Then, she remembered that this junior brother's speed had not weakened. In other words, he was not affected by the fog. Ao Longyu stopped. Jiang Lan didn't say anything. Since the other party wanted to bring him to a safe place, he naturally wouldn't say anything. Furthermore, there's danger in the mystic realm. He did not dare to be careless. He did not know much about this mystic realm. Junior brother did this. Ao Longyu asked as she looked at the retreating mist. It's just a trick. Jiang Lan naturally understood what she was referring to. After all, he was dispelling the fog. The environment was much brighter. It was very advantageous for traveling. What kind of trick is this? Ao Longyu looked at Jiang Lan and paused for a moment. If junior brother is unwilling to share, you don't have to say it. Of course, if you tell me, I won't just learn your techniques. This technique was definitely from the ninth summit, so she was not sure if she could learn it. It's a type of repelling spell, similar to the gravitational spell. Jiang Lan started to tell her the principle behind it. First, we need a vessel and an array formation. The vessel will contain the fog, then the gravitational spell is added onto the array formation. The function of the array is to repel. Thus, with the array formation as the center, it would be able to repel the contents of the vessel. However, the formation is unable to withstand something that's too powerful. Therefore, it's just a little trick. As he spoke, Jianlan took out an array formation and a small bottle. Ao Longyu was a little surprised. This was much simpler than she had thought, but she also felt that it was extremely complicated. This was because it was impossible if one didn't under the relevant array formations and spells thoroughly. How does junior brother know all this? Ao Longyu was in disbelief. This didn't seem like something from Kunlun. Jianlan lowered her head and said softly, "The ninth summit has a lot of books. As a disciple of the ninth summit, I also have a lot of time." The meaning behind his words was clear. As long as he read more books and studied more, he would naturally be able to master it. Ao Longyu glanced at Jianlan but didn't ask any more questions. She simply led Jianlan away. Before she left, she tossed a book to Jianlan. "This is a spell, the spirit language spell. It is also a little trick. Consider it as an exchange," Ao Longyu said. Jianlan accepted the book and thanked her. He naturally had no reason to refuse. He had never heard of the spirit language spell before. Not long after, Jianlan was sent to a flat land. Although there was fog here, it was not as dense as in the mountains. Slosh. It was the sound of the earth moving. Jianlan saw Ao Longyu draw a circle around him. "Don't come out and stay inside. If other disciples come along, you can drag them in. Without my mark, only you can let them in. You have to handle the situation yourself. Remember, don't just walk out of the circle." With that said, Ao Longyu left and disappeared into the mist. Jianlan watched her leave. After a long while, he silently muttered to himself, "Looks like she's not an enemy." Jianlan couldn't care less about what the other party was going to do. He didn't sense anything particularly dangerous for now either. Therefore, he would have to wait and see. As for now, he could study this spirit language spell. Chapter 16. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Word of Law Technique Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. There had to be more to the spirit language spell. Jianlan took a closer look and realized that this spell was indeed not that powerful. The spirit language spell belonged to the power of words. It was similar to a simulated version of the word of law technique. For example, if he told a rock to get up, the rock would fly up. He was merely using his cultivation to enhance his speech. He needed a unique trick. But that was all. The limit was what he could do. He could control what he could accomplish with words. The spell would not work if it was something too complicated. It wouldn't work if there were too many words. The simpler, the better. This is rather interesting. After reading the entire article, Jianlan began to try to learn. Although this spirit language spell seemed useless, when combined with one-leaf vision, one could mistake it to be the word of law technique. Even immortals might not be able to do that. I shall learn it. There will always be a time when it will come in handy. Jianlan muttered to himself. There were some things that he would learn, and some things that he would not. It depended on its usefulness or whether it would be a waste of time. Because of the Taoist scriptures' help in the beginning, he could learn things very quickly. If he had to waste a lot of time to learn something that was not necessary, he would not study it. A lot of his time still needed to be spent on cultivation. That was the foundation. Time passed quickly. When Jianlan opened his eyes, the sky was already bright. He looked ahead. The fog showed no signs of receding. At this moment, Jianlan extended his hand and gently waved at the fog. Then, he said calmly, "Disperse." Just as he said that, a gushing sound was heard. Whoosh! The fog was split apart. It was hard to see any trace of power. It was as if his words had dispersed the fog. However, the mist that had just been separated returned quickly again. It was as if the fog was too thick, and he could not disperse it. Jianlan didn't pay any attention to this. Instead, he took out his small array formation bottle. I wonder if it will work if we combine the two. With this thought in mind, Jianlan activated the power of the array formation and then fused it with the spirit language spell. His steady voice sounded again. Disperse. Whoosh. This time, the speed at which the fog dispersed was much faster, and the range was much larger. Jianlan observed for a while and discovered that the fog was only slowly gathering together. It would take quite some time for it to return. It's quite useful. Senior Sister Ao probably know how to use it this way as well, right? If he could think of it, then others would naturally have thought of it as well. Perhaps she had already thought of it when he taught her about the array formation. No one was that stupid. Jianlan didn't think too much about it. Since he had more or less learned the spirit language spell, it was time for him to cultivate. However, he was worried that the others might return if he stayed here. It would be troublesome if they saw that the aura of his cultivation did not match that of the Qi refinement stage. Boom! Just as Jianlan was hesitating if he should go somewhere else, a rumbling sound suddenly came from the mountains, along with a powerful energy fluctuation. The mist began to churn. Clang! Suddenly, the barrier around Jianlan lit up. The power of the aura activated Ao Longyu's defense barrier. Then, the aura was completely isolated outside. Seeing the aura, Jianlan stopped cultivating and stood up. Soon, the aura calmed down. It's very strong. It is at least at the level of the golden core. I wonder if it has anything to do with Xian Jiao. Roar! 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 Moo! The cries of demonic beasts were heard, shaking the heavens and earth. A beast tide. A beast tide was not an ordinary problem, especially if the demon beasts were too strong. It would be a disaster. He had read about it in some books on the 9th summit. Wherever a beast tide passed, not a single blade of grass grew. The terror of the demon race could be witnessed from this occurrence. If it was a beast tide, he could not stay here. He could either think of a way to leave or think of a way to get rid of the beast tide. Jianlan's first choice was to leave. But no one told him how to leave this place. Forget it, let's go in and take a look first. If it's really risky, I'll think of a way to wait for help. With this thought in mind, Jianlan decided to leave the place and head out to take a look. Just as he took a step forward, he felt that he was being watched. Again. The moment he felt this gaze, Jianlan gave up on the idea of leaving. Anyway, let's see what this person was up to first. After making up his mind, Jianlan sat down again and started cultivating. He conducted a normal cultivation. This cultivation went straight into the night. During this period of time, several power surges occurred, but none of them had managed to break through the barrier. There were even aftershocks that charged at him, but they were still stopped by the circle. The roars of the demonic beasts became more frequent. Along the way, a dragon's roar could be heard. However, Jianlan didn't move. The person staring at him never left either. The other party was probably waiting, but Jianlan was waiting as well. Let's see who would grow impatient first. Yes. Jianlan finally felt a shift in the gaze watching him. It was coming towards him. Finally can't take it anymore. Actually, he was very curious about who was staring at him, but it was definitely not that senior sister Ao. Previously, the other party had used the aftershocks as a cover to attack this place once. It just didn't bring any effect. Soon, Jianlan heard heavy footsteps, as if the person was seriously injured. A figure emerged from the mist. There were also energy fluctuations, and the person looked extremely weak. This made Jiang Lan curious. Chapter 17. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Is junior brother willing to die under senior sister Longyu's sword? Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios Thump. Jiang Lan saw the figure collapse outside the circle. Because of the fog, Jiang Lan couldn't see the person clearly. However, he still got up and walked over. It was a beautiful woman wearing the Kunlun disciple uniform. There were traces of blood on her body and she seemed very weak. As for the specific injuries, Jiang Lan couldn't see them. Are you all right? Jiang Lan walked to the edge of the circle and asked. Is this senior sister Longyu's protective circle? The beauty raised her head and looked at Jiang Lan as she struggled to speak. She was a very beautiful woman. You are? Jiang Lan asked. I'm a disciple of the third summit, Wu Ji. We have encountered a beast tide. Junior brother, can you help us? Senior sister Longyu saved us and went to save the other disciples. It wasn't easy for us to come here, but everyone is too seriously injured to move closer. I can only count on you, junior brother, Wu Ji pleaded as she looked at Jiang Lan. Her pitiful look made one's heart ache. How many more of you are there? Jiang Lan asked. He did not care how good-looking and delicate the other party was. Three of them. 2 of them are seriously injured, and 1 of them stayed behind to watch. I'm not seriously injured, so I came to seek help. Wu Ji spat out a mouthful of blood after saying that. She looked like she was in an extremely sorry state. Jiang Lan looked at Wu Ji silently. There are 3 more. If it's true, it means that there are 3 more enemies. This person has only perfected the foundation establishment stage, and the other 3 should not have golden cores either. It's not a big problem. With that thought, Jiang Lan nodded and replied, okay. If there was a golden core cultivator among them, they should have been able to break through senior sister Ao's protective circle. However, the other party referred to senior sister Ao as senior sister Longyu. That senior sister was called Ao Longyu. Jiang Lan actually didn't know that. However, he didn't confirm it. After all, if the other party wanted to cause trouble for him, he also wanted to deal with it. Keeping a problem around was never a good idea. Really? Wu Ji looked grateful. Thank you, junior brother. Which summit are you from? The 9th summit. As he spoke, Jiang Lan walked out of the circle. The moment he walked out, he could clearly sense that the other party had gathered her strength, as if she was prepared to attack at any moment. However, only he who was at the golden core stage could sense it. It was impossible if he had only perfected the Qi refinement realm. Even a cultivator who had perfected the foundation establishment realm would find it difficult. The other party had a Dharma treasure concealing them. Senior sister, can you get up? Jiang Lan asked. Yes. Wu Ji struggled to get up. Jiang Lan saw that the other party was swaying, but he didn't have any intention of helping her up. If it wasn't for the fact that he needed the other party to bring him to where the rest were, he might have already taken action. Wu Ji didn't mind that Jiang Lan wasn't going to help her. Come with me, junior brother. You look like you're only at the perfected stage of Qi refinement. Yes. I'm not that talented. A stupid bird flies first. There will definitely be a spot for you on the immortal path. Jiang Lan nodded wordlessly. Naturally, he knew this. There was no need for her to remind him. The beast tide suddenly appeared and injured many people. I wonder if senior sister Longyu is all right. However, she is from the dragon race. She will definitely be fine. Junior brother, don't worry, said Wu Ji casually as she looked at Jiang Lan. I'm not worried. Jiang Lan's attention was mainly on this senior sister as he stayed wary of his surroundings. After walking for a while, he sensed 3 people around him. The other party wasn't lying. There were indeed 3 accomplices. However, none of them were injured. And they were all at the perfected foundation establishment stage. Junior brother is really confident in senior sister Longyu. Wu Ji smiled as she looked at Jiang Lan. She was no longer in a sorry state. Many demonic beasts in the mountains have died under senior sister Longyu's sword. Since junior brother likes senior sister Longyu so much, are you willing to die under her sword? Jiang Lan stopped and looked at Wu Ji. So you intend to use senior sister Ao's sword to kill me? Eh. Hearing Jiang Lan's words, Wu Ji was a little surprised. However, she quickly smiled and said, Junior brother is really smart. Then, are you willing to cooperate? It'll be fast. Besides, you can't forget about running. We have quite a number of people here. At this moment, the other 3 people walked out from the fog. They surrounded Jiang Lan as if they were worried that he would suddenly flee. Looking at these 4 people, Jiang Lan didn't show any emotion. He only nodded and said, okay. Ha! Wu Ji frowned. She couldn't understand Jiang Lan's answer. Was there something wrong with this person? However, it was good that the other party was willing to cooperate. At the perfected stage of chi refinement, she did not believe that he could cause any trouble. That without any hesitation, Wu Ji took out a sword. It was Ao Longyu's sword. This sword was their spoils of war. As long as she stabbed this disciple with it, Ao Longyu would be the one who had killed him. No matter how much Ao Longyu was doted on, no matter how much she tried to explain herself, she could not escape from being suspected. The follow-up plan could then also be implemented. Of course, if Ao Longyu could die here, it would be even more perfect. Ao Longyu killed the disciple of the 9th summit, and the other disciples attacked her together. In the end, they paid a huge price to kill Ao Longyu of the dragon race. If the princess of the dragon race died in Kunlun, the dragon race would definitely rise in revolt. This plan was great and was going well. As long as the plan was completed before the outside world knew about it, the rest of Kunlun would not be able to recover. As of now, there was definitely enough time. This time, the plan was intact. Success was right in front of their eyes. With this thought in mind, Wu Ji stabbed the sword in Jiang Lan's direction. The other 3 watched as Wu Ji attacked the disciple who had been hiding in the protective circle. Furthermore, he was a disciple at the perfected chi refinement realm. It was easy to kill him, just that it was a little troublesome. Fortunately, she could kill him directly now. The plan had just taken another step forward. Chapter 18 You are listening at novelfull.audio. You're looking for me. Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. Everyone was watching to see Wu Ji kill Jiang Lan. Wu Ji felt the same as well. She believed that there was no need to stab the other party a second time. She would seal his fate with just one strike. However, just when Wu Ji thought that she was about to kill Jiang Lan with the sword, Jiang Lan, who had been standing where he was, suddenly disappeared. The sword sliced through the air. Where is he? Wu Ji was flabbergasted. She looked at her 3 companions. However, she was stunned by what she saw. Her 3 companions seemed to be covered in blood, and their faces were filled with terror. What? What happened? The moment Wu Ji thought of this, she felt her perspective change. It was as if she had suddenly gone to a faraway place and then suddenly fell flat. Did the world become lopsided? But the next moment, a sharp pain spread across her entire body. She wanted to move, but realized that she couldn't. In the next instant, she realized that half of her body was gone. Were you looking for me just now? Jiang Lan's voice entered Wu Ji's ears. Only then did Wu Ji realize that she was about to die. She had been killed instantly by the other party. How is this possible? This question flashed through Wu Ji's mind. Then, she completely lost consciousness. She did not feel too much pain. Jianglan retracted his gaze. Then, he turned to look at the other three people. He wanted to ask how many people were there. If the situation wasn't bad enough to affect him, then it was fine. He would just head back and crouch. If it would affect him, he had to think of a way to deal with it quickly. Otherwise, if Senior Sister Ao and the others return, he would have no choice but to take action, which would be troublesome. If he was the only one left alive, there was no way he could answer to Kunlun. He couldn't possibly say that all those people sacrificed themselves to save him, right? Moreover, if he was the only one alive, he would be too big of a target and would be noticed by many people. It would not benefit him in the future. When Jianglan looked at the three people, they finally regained their senses. One of the men immediately said, "Stop him, I'll report this back." After saying that, he ran away. Jianglan didn't care about the person who ran away. Instead, he walked towards the other two. "You're not escaping." Jianglan looked at them and asked. He could tell that they were afraid. At this moment, the two of them exchanged glances before charging towards Jianglan. "I don't believe you're really that strong." It was impossible. The person before them was clearly only at the perfected stage of chi refinement. How did he manage to kill one of them in a second? It was just a moment. Just a short moment. It was definitely not a matter of cultivation. It was not impossible for it to be due to a Dharma treasure. They'll take their chances. Jianglan looked at the two people who were rushing over and immediately appeared in front of them in a flash. Boom! With a punch, the one that was closer to him was directly blasted into a bloody mist. When the other saw this scene, he immediately ran back in fear. He was too powerful. He was too terrifying. It was just a simple punch. They had clearly used all their strength. But they were still so weak in front of him. He could not win against him. Jianglan looked at him and took a step forward. He activated the 9 steps of heavenly travel. In the next moment, Jianglan appeared beside the man. When the man saw the sudden appearance of the killer, he screamed. Then, he tried to escape in another direction. However, boom! Jianglan ended his fear. The blood mist lingered in the air. Then, he walked forward, following the fleeing man without haste. The other party's words clearly told him that they had other accomplices. Therefore, Jianglan decided to take a look. In order to not have to search for them himself, he let the other party lead the way. Of course, Jianglan would kill him before he reached them. It would be troublesome to keep those who had witnessed his attack alive. At this moment, a ball of mist appeared on Jianglan's body. The mist covered his face, figure, and his secrets. 2 different people would see 2 different situations. But none of them would be able to see Jianglan's face clearly. Even heavenly reading techniques couldn't see into Jianglan's past. This was the divine power of the one-leaf vision. After learning this, there was basically no one who could guess that it was him through other things. What they could find out was only the normal him. As long as the one-leaf vision was not broken apart, they would not be able to see his secrets. Currently, Jianglan could only conceal his own heavenly secrets. He was unable to sense if anyone was trying to read into him. However, as his cultivation level increased, his one-leaf vision would also become a divine power of a higher level. At that time, as long as someone was reading him, he would notice it. Jianglan walked in the mist. He didn't use that small trick like earlier. It was as if he had merged into the mist, making it difficult for others to detect. Not long after, Jianglan felt a storm of power around him. There were also countless growls. "I've reached." Jianglan didn't feel like it was too far away. In the mountains, in an area where there was no fog, a group of demonic beasts attacked a defensive circle. There were more than 10 Kunlun disciples in the defensive circle. They were covered in injuries. Leading them were two women, both at the Golden Core realm. Ao Longyu was one of them. Scales had appeared on Ao Longyu's hands. Dragon horns sprouted from her head. It was just that her body was covered in blood. Some belonged to others and some were her own. Someone is controlling the beasts. As a dragon, Ao Longyu immediately discovered this. If senior sister didn't have a spell that could expel the fog, we wouldn't have lasted until now. Those people are trying to use the mist and the beast tide to kill us, said the woman beside Ao Longyu. She was Lin Xia, a disciple from the third summit, and Ao Longyu's junior sister. As a golden core cultivator, she felt powerless as she looked at the beasts. She wasn't the only one. The Kunlun disciples behind her were completely helpless against the beast tide as well. There was no escape. Chapter 19. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Win, or Die translator. Atlas Studios editor. Atlas Studios' Ao Longyu looked at the beast horde in front of her wordlessly. However, her junior sister was right. If it was not for that disciple from the 9th summit, they would not have survived. But even so, they were still struggling at death's door. Previously, she had used the power of her bloodline to suppress the appearance of the beast tide. But she sensed a pair of hands behind the herd, controlling everything. And the target was most likely her. It was the same 3 years ago. 3 years ago, she was suppressed by a Dharma treasure. This time, the other party was using a beast horde to suppress her. If that was really the case, then picking a mystic realm to make a move was also intentional. In the mystic realm, they dared to make a bigger commotion. At Kunlun Mountain, they could only make a small fuss. After all, a battle with Foundation Establishment disciples was completely different from a battle with Golden Core cultivators. Moreover, there was not just 1 or 2 Golden Core cultivators. In the outside world, this kind of commotion was akin to courting death. We need to think of a way to break through. If this continues, we'll definitely die here. Ao Longyu's voice sounded. She knew that their current state was equivalent to that of a fish in a bottle surrounded by cats. Once the cats outside found a way, they would be at their opponent's mercy. They had to find a way to get out of this predicament. We've already sent out the news, but it's hard to say if it has been intercepted. Lin Xia frowned and said, if it's been intercepted, we'll have to wait for the next team to arrive. If they discover something, they will send word out. What about the others? Ao Longyu asked as she watched her defense barrier endure the continuous attacks. The beasts were too strong. Even Golden Core cultivators like them had no way of dealing with so many beasts. Moreover, there were no Golden Cores among the beasts. Otherwise, they would not even have a chance to escape. I don't know about the situation of the other team leaders, said Lin Xia. She had been trying to contact other people from the start, but there was no way to do so. If senior sister Longyu had not suddenly rushed over, she might have been crushed by the beast horde. They were the only ones nearby. As for the junior brothers and sisters behind, they were the ones from their teams. None of them had a cultivation level that surpassed major perfection. Ao Longyu didn't say anything, which meant that there was no other way to save them. By the time someone discovered what was going on outside, it might be too late. Ao Longyu frowned. From the looks of it, nothing unexpected had happened. It was equivalent to waiting for their fate to arrive. Actually, there might be a way. At this moment, a male disciple behind spoke up. Ao Longyu and Li Xia looked over. The others looked over as well. It was a rather graceful young man who spoke. He looked at the others and said, all of us are at the perfected Foundation Establishment realm. As long as we advance, there will be a way. But how can we advance? A female disciple asked. Ao Longyu and Lin Xia remained silent. Perhaps they understood what this junior brother was thinking. However, this thought might not be acceptable to others. Mo Li raised his head and looked at his fellow disciples. Then, a cruel smile appeared on his face. Kill our way out, kill our way to death. It's either a breakthrough on the verge of death, or we die silently. Hearing this, the others were somewhat astonished. This was an extreme thought. However, there were also two people who were not surprised. Instead, they kept silent. Yes, there was nothing else they could do now. If there were no other alternatives, they could only kill their way out. They only needed an opportunity to have a breakthrough. Although the breakthrough would have some impact, it was definitely the only chance of survival. The path to immortality was not easy. A smooth sailing journey. That was impossible. Ao Longyu looked at these people. Although some people were surprised and found it hard to accept, but they didn't say anything after that and chose to remain silent. Silence meant consent. No one chose to refuse. Because this was the only choice. It depended on who could last until the end and who could break through their own limits. Since the people behind the beast attack didn't want them to live, it would depend on who was more ruthless. At that moment, killing intent began to emerge from their bodies. They were prepared to fight to their deaths, leaving no way out. They would either win, or die. The mastermind who had been paying close attention to Ao Longyu and the others was stunned as well when they sensed the determination in them. He immediately ordered the beast horde to stop attacking. Swoosh! Suddenly, he appeared in the middle of the herd. Ao Longyu and the others were naturally the first to notice the changes in the beasts. But they were surprised as it happened abruptly. At this moment, not only did the beasts not attack, they even retreated. This was not normal. The mastermind is coming out, Ao Longyu said as she looked outside. At this moment, she had an ominous feeling. However, they were about to find out their true motive. And it could buy time as well. Except. Both Ao Longyu and Lin Xia understood one thing. The other party wanted to stop them from acting how they did earlier. That kind of fight where they either win or die, with no way out. But the other party had stopped. Even if they found out their motive, it was too late. Looks like the other party has been watching us, Ao Longyu muttered to herself. Ao Longyu soon saw a few people in black robes walking out from behind the beasts. There were a total of 4 people, 1 at the Golden Core realm and 3 at the late stage of the Foundation Establishment realm. This Golden Core cultivator should be the one controlling the beasts. After the 4 of them walked out, the tall figure in the lead said in a low voice, "We never wanted to become enemies with Kunlun. We only wanted to seek revenge on the dragon race." Chapter 20. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Killing Ao Longyu translator. Atlas Studios editor. Atlas Studios. Hearing the other party's words, Ao Longyu knew that things had changed. All the attack would be on her. Furthermore, they would no longer be united here. The other party was also worried about the other disciples making a breakthrough. But she couldn't say anything else, because no matter what, the others would choose to stand on the less risky side. Even if it wasn't so trustworthy. Lin Xia frowned as well. She looked at the juniors behind her and realized that some of them seemed to have loosened up. But she didn't care. Instead, she stood beside her senior sister. "What do you mean by that?" Lin Xia asked. Ao Longyu looked at her junior sister beside her and didn't say anything. Although she roughly knew what the other party wanted to do, she still wanted to test them out. Not for anything else but to buy time. The longer this dragged on, the more chances they had. There isn't more to it than that. The leader continued in a low voice. "We only have one target. So we wanted to tell you all that if you want to leave, we will not stop you." As his voice fell, the rear of the beast horde slowly opened up a path. It was as if he was allowing the others to retreat. Seeing that there was a path for them, some disciples were moved. "All of you grew up in Kunlun, the holy land of the grand desolate world. Therefore, you aren't too sure about the situation outside. Neither are you aware of the situation with the dragon race. You may not understand the brutality of the dragon race, but we do. Thus, we will pay any price to take revenge this time. As you all know, the mystic realm belongs to Kunlun. If something happens here, it means that the people outside will immediately intervene. We will undoubtedly die. But nothing can stop us. This is our determination. We hope everyone understands. The black-robed man's meaning was very clear. They will definitely die. They are even more unafraid of death than you. If they were to clash head-on, it would depend on who was more ruthless. Because they had already been sentenced to death. Ao Longyu naturally understood what he meant. She also knew that he was telling these junior brothers and sisters that the dragon race was nothing good. The other party was isolating her. Do you think we're stupid? Lin Xia said coldly. Without senior sister, wouldn't it be easy for you to kill us? Heh heh. That person laughed. Is this woman planning to bring those future prodigies behind her along and risk their lives for your senior sister, and then die with her? After saying this, the man extended his hand and said to the sky, I hereby swear that as long as you leave now, I will definitely not touch you. If I violate this rule, the heavenly lightning will strike me and destroy my soul. Heh heh, do you take us for fools? Mo Li smiled cruelly. Just because you don't kill us, doesn't mean the others can't. Once we split up, all of you will slaughter us like dogs. That's right. If senior sister Ao dies here, can the rest of us still escape? One of the female disciples said. Among them, Ao Longyu was the strongest. She was a golden core cultivator. In the past 3 years, her cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds. If Ao Longyu died, they would not be able to escape. Faced with their questioning, the black-robed man smiled and said, the rest of you, swear upon it too. He spoke to the people behind him. Soon, the people behind him also swore. Then, the leader of the black-robed men looked at Ao Longyu in surprise. As you know, our oath is effective. If you still think we're going to kill you, then we have nothing to say. I'll give you one last chance. We're in a hurry and don't want to waste any precious time on you. You can leave at any time. If you want to stay, we welcome you too. After saying this, the black-robed man looked at them. He was waiting for them to make a decision. Lin Xia looked at the people behind her. More than half of them wanted to retreat. She opened her mouth, wanting to say something, but was unable to say a word. There was no other reason. Those people all swore, and they were great Tao oaths as well. Even if it was just all talk and they were to make a move, these enemies would not be included. It would be much safer. However, no one took the initiative to leave. Junior sister, bring them back first. I'll stay here. Just as everyone was feeling conflicted, Ao Longyu spoke first. She knew it wouldn't be genuine to let these people stay. Furthermore, staying behind was equivalent to risking their lives for her. She did not need it. I'm not leaving. Lin Xia stood beside Ao Longyu. Then, she said to the people behind her, leave by yourselves. They won't make a move anyway. Junior sister. Ao Longyu looked at Lin Xia and frowned. She was too willful. Lin Xia looked at Ao Longyu and said, senior sister, you don't have to persuade me. All I know is that I cultivated with you and grew up together with you. Although senior sister hasn't been particularly good to me, you often guide me. I'm not familiar with those juniors. Ao Longyu looked at Lin Xia and said coldly, if you stay, you'll be a burden. I might have a chance of escaping if I'm alone. How could that be? Lin Xia was stunned and in disbelief. As a dragon, I definitely have life. Preservation means. One more person means more danger, Ao Longyu said to Lin Xia. Lin Xia opened her mouth, but nothing came out. She didn't know if senior sister Longyu was telling the truth. Take them and retreat, Ao Long Yu added. This time, Lin Xia did not speak. She did not know what to say. Senior Sister Lin, let's retreat. Someone spoke. When one of them spoke, another naturally spoke up as well. That's right. We'll only be a burden to Senior Sister Ao if we stay. Lin Xia scratched her hands and nodded. Ao Long Yu watched them leave. Indeed, the other party did not stop them. Even if they went back on their words, she could still buy some time. Of course, running away was just a casual remark. If it was in the beginning, she could have escaped. But it was too late now. She was seriously injured. After Lin Xia and the others left, Ao Long Yu turned to look at the black-robed men and said, I want to know which summit you are from. In your eyes, I'm probably already a dead person. Then what's the point of knowing so much? The leader of the black-robed men asked. He then ordered the beasts to attack. He had already wasted a lot of time, so there was no need for him to delay this further. Any more words would be nonsense. He would talk about other things after killing Ao Long Yu. Boom! Many dragon forms appeared on Ao Long Yu's face as her hands moved turned into dragon claws. The only thing she could rely on now was her powerful dragon body. Boom! Another loud noise was heard. A large number of demonic beasts were sent flying by Ao Long Yu. However, as she continued to attack, she also endured many attacks. The leader of the black-robed men took the opportunity to gather his strength and charge into the encirclement. By the time Ao Long Yu, who was resisting the attacks of the demonic beasts, realized what he was doing, it was already too late.